Welcome to Resilience Development in Action, where strength meets strategy and courage to help you move forward. Each week, your host, Steve Bisson, a therapist with over 2 decades of experience in the first responder community, brings you powerful conversations about resilience, growth, and healing through trauma and grief. Through authentic interviews, expert discussions, and real-world experiences, we dive deep into the heart of human resilience. We explore crucial topics like trauma recovery, grief processing, stress management, and emotional well-being. This is Resilience Development in Action with Steve Bisson.
Hi, and welcome to episode 219. If you haven't listened to episode 218, well, it's the same guest, so hopefully go to listen to that first, and then join us for the second part with Hannah Elmore, who is the Clinical Outreach Coordinator for the IAFF Center of Excellence. The interview has gone really great. She talked about her work as offering support, providing education, connecting people to behavioral health resources. She's talked about even doing work in the community. And I think she said go Seminoles for Florida State University fans on here. So here is the second part of the interview. GetFree.ai. You heard me talk about it. I'm going to keep on talking about it because I love it. I've had about a year and a half, 18 months practice with it, and I still enjoy it. And it saves me time and it saves me energy. Free.ai takes your note, makes a what you're talking with a client, just press record. And it does either transcript, it does a subjective and an objective with a letter if needed for your client and for whoever might need it. So for $99 a month, it saves me so much time that it's worthwhile. And if you do it for a whole year, guess what? You get 10% off. More importantly, this is what you got to remember because you are my audience that listens to Resilience Development in Action. If you do listen to this and you want to use free.ai, put in the code STEVE50 in the promo code area, STEVE50, and you will get $50 off in addition to everything we just talked about. Get freed from writing your notes. Get freed from even writing your transcripts. Use that to your advantage. Free.ai, a great service. Go to getfree.ai and you will get one of the best services that will save you time and money. And I highly encourage you to do so. Again, I'll tell people to go to YouTube because I smiled because I can tell you from experience, I've had a few clients talk about that fire pit.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is the Center of Excellence for the IAFF, it was really clinically, that was really good for them. But they said that the letting go, the actual clinical internalization, sorry to bore you with clinical words, really occurred around that fire pit.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, too, that I want to emphasize and help me out a little bit, too, is that it's not, there's two things. These are not like a hospital bed next to a hospital bed, all white. This is not how the facility looks. And I want people to understand, I don't plug things unless I believe them. But this is the one thing that was a selling point for at least one of my clients that was really helpful. The other thing I want to mention in regards to that is that the center itself doesn't make you feel like you're a patient. And what I mean by that is when you go to a hospital, there's clearly, this is the boss, this is the clinical person, here's the nurse, here's the doctor. And the other part too that my clients have shared with me was like, you really felt like a human being in there with other human beings. Some of them had roles. We respected their roles, but we understood that we're all human beings. And that's another great part of the IAFF Center of Excellence in my experience. But please tell me more because I've never been there. Hopefully one day I'll go do a tour.
I was going to say, we have to schedule a tour, Steve. I can't believe that's not been on our, well, that's where we can meet up is in Maryland.
Middle ground, really, between Massachusetts and Florida, kind of.
Exactly.
Right?
Perfect. Quick flight for both of us. But yes, so the IAFF Center of Excellence, one unique aspect of it as well is it is the only treatment facility that has the IAFF's oversight and approval over everything that we do. Their fingerprints are all over not only the structure of our programming, the way that individuals are trained and the way that programming is held, but the way that the environment is set up. from the kitchen to be mirroring how it looks back at the station house with that gathering tables and those breaking bread together, to the station houses where individuals sleep at night, and everywhere in between has the IAFF's fingerprint on it too, and has that complete oversight. We can't do anything without the IAFF being aware of what we're doing and having direct reporting of everything in a confidential manner, of course, but of our processes to make sure that it is the highest quality of care for IAFF members and to make sure that it makes sense for fire service members. And so that's something that's really important too, and really separates that from maybe some other programs or facilities. Now, the IAFF Center of Excellence is exclusively for IAFF members. It is duly licensed for both primary mental health and primary substance use. So that's another really important factor that I hope can be beneficial and validating to members. Is there's definitely not a one size fits all that individuals may come to us. It may be from mental health, anxiety, depression, PTSD, complicated grief, OCD, or other mental health challenges. It may be from substance abuse. If they need medical detox, we have that as well on campus with the same clinical and medical team. And it may be co-occurring, which we are seeing quite frequently due to a high utilization of substances out of a need or an attempt to feel better, and maybe leaning on substances in the process without having other coping skills to call upon. But it doesn't have to be one or the other. We have a dual licensure, so we can treat a wide variety of behavioral health challenges. Now, we have been open since 2017. We are just a few individuals away from hitting that 4,000 members treated on campus since 2017. And these come from at least one individual treated from all 50 states, as well as 5 provinces in Canada. So although it's in Maryland, it is certainly not exclusive to individuals in that pocket or corner of the country. We are seeing a wide representation of IAFF members, which is really unique to have that ability to connect and network with IAFF members from all corners of the country in Canada. Now, I will say, everything is very individualized, including length of stay. A lot of times individuals are wondering before coming in, how long can I expect to stay there? It is individualized. We do see an average length of stay to be about 35 to 45 days, but could be a little less, could be a little bit more. It really just depends on how is their treatment evolving? How are they interacting in groups? How are they responding to medications if that's applicable? And that's kind of how our curriculum is set up for the best possible outcome upon discharge. Now, let's say someone's tuning in today and they are from, the West, or they're from the South, or it's not a drivable distance. Although it is located in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, to be able to have that 15-acre rural campus, it is only about 45 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. So that way there are 3 nearby airports that individuals can fly into, and then we will have pickups coordinated from Center of Excellence staff to those airports to make sure that your members are safely and quickly transitioned into treatment with a friendly face from the facility as well.
And I can vouch for that too, for someone who went from Massachusetts there a couple of times, actually. So I can vouch for that personally. That's true. There's so many things that you just said that I feel I can go on and on. And I'm going to start off with one. The other benefit that people don't understand about being from all over the country. Sometimes it's hard to talk to your peer support in your own, in your firehouse, in your area, county, state, city, town, village. I want to try to hit everyone so I don't exclude anyone. But one of the things that one of the members who have gone there, who said to me, sometimes I call the guy in, we'll say Colorado. It's not Colorado. I want to protect the innocent. And sometimes it's just easier to say it to someone who's not in the firehouse, and vice versa. They exchange. It's an equal exchange. But I think that being all over the country in 5 provinces, which again, if you ask me, those are the 2 best countries in the world, but I might be a little biased. But the point is I think that that's one of the things I think is a huge advantage of the Center of Excellence for IAFF, is having people from all, because you make contacts all over the country. I'm sure you have some stories that you can omit the information to share, but.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, I think learning from the experiences of others in various areas of the country, having that long-term relationship, once they discharge, they're added to alumni groups. They have the opportunity to kind of keep that conversation going, keep that networking going, both in, virtual recovery group options as well as an alumni group. And so, sharing that information, most of these individuals come home and a lot of times they become kind of the behavioral health champions for their department or for their local, and a lot of times then become peers. And so to have all of this contact information and, long lasting relationships with individuals from all over the country, sharing ideas, sharing SOPs, sharing, all these different aspects of how they're building their behavioral health program or their peer support program can be really cool as well. And it is neat to see kind of that ongoing relationship building and kind of what can come from that relationship as well.
You talked about the dual diagnosis. The other problem I find in Massachusetts is very good at the healthcare system.
Mm-hmm.
But for first responders, it's still primitive. And
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by that is there is no strict mental health facility in Massachusetts for first responders.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's important too, because if you have someone who's struggling with, again, we'll go with a stereotype, PTSD, go see YouTube. I'm rolling my eyes as we speak. But let's go with PTSD, but you don't have any substance use per se, then they got to like either drink or they got to be smoking. And then it becomes complex to get them in. So the
Yes.
fact that this center of excellence takes on like as I call in my clinical world, straight mental health is such a unique perspective. And there's not many of those in the United States that do that for first responders, particularly
Absolutely.
firefighters.
And I want to just touch on your comment about PTSD because I agree with you. Is I think that is of course the stereotypical disorder for first responders, and it's of course all of them have PTSD, which is not true. All of them have PTSD from the job, which is not true. And so
Right.
we get calls sometimes from individuals that say, "Hey, I think I'm struggling with trauma, but it is not related to the fire service. It's from childhood or from the military or from something else in my life. Would this be eligible?" Absolutely. This is a facility that has the expertise in working with firefighters, but firefighters are complex human beings. They're not just coming into the job as, robots and then exposed to potentially traumatic events and then getting PTSD from the job. And then no, there's a lot that it comes to a person's individual life experiences, family upbringing, characteristics, personalities, you name it. And so we are seeing a lot of firefighters that are coming in. Perhaps they may have PTSD, but it's not always tied to the job as well. And I think that's really important to validate that no matter what your experience is, it is valid and there is help and support for you. We're also seeing a ton of marital struggles. We're seeing a lot of individuals that maybe are feeling like they've been kind of coping as they go, but their stress and their compassion fatigue and their burnout or whatever it is reaching a point that makes it hard to get out of bed in the morning, makes it hard to have motivation to go to work. We are having people that are coming in struggling with substances, but sometimes, like you said, it's just for that mental health and we're able to treat that as well. So certainly not a one size fits all treatment plan and certainly not a one size fits all reason that individuals call us either. We see individuals that have been on the job for weeks. We see individuals that have been on the job for 35 years and everything in between. So there's no right or wrong time to call and ask for help. I also think there's a misconception that one has to reach crisis before they reach out and ask for help. But we want individuals to know that there is so much support before you reach crisis. We don't want anybody ever reaching the point of crisis, and just know that there is so much out there, including the Center of Excellence, that you don't have to wait until the peak of crisis before reaching out for help. And we really want that to be something that individuals know as well. If you're suffering or struggling at all, please reach out to whatever capacity of resource you're looking for. There is so much out there, and you don't have to wait until it's really, really bad or really, really uncomfortable before doing so.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I think I was laughing. You don't need to wait till you're on the verge of whatever we call Section 12 in Massachusetts, where you're suicidal, homicidal, or lacking judgment, in order to go and get some support. The marital stuff, you talk about that. The other part too, that sometimes with the mental health part that really pushes down on firefighters in particular, that's not talked about. And I talk about it all the time, but it's not a fun subject. It's called administrative betrayal. And people don't understand how hurtful that is and how much that weighs, because it doesn't only have an impact for the work, it has an impact for the family. It has an impact for when they're in the community and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
I wanted to mention that because I think that, people are like, well, administrative betrayal, that's not really a mental health issue. Not if it's fucking up your life in 4 different ways. It
Totally.
is absolutely an issue. And
Totally.
sometimes going to your peer support who maybe is friends with the LT you want to talk about or what have you. And I'm making it up as I go here. Well, then,
Totally.
where do you go? Well, that's why the Center of Excellence exists. That's why therapy exists. That's why there's other parts where you can get the intervention. I'm sure that you see that too at the Center of Excellence.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought that up because I think administrative betrayal also ties into why having culturally competent providers is so important. Because if you go to a general therapist that has no experience working with first responders and present the distressing experiences of administrative betrayal that you're experiencing, they may not know how to be, handling that or be best equipped to do so. Administrative betrayal is unfortunately common with not only firefighters, but with other first responders as well, and can be completely distressing, can be difficult to continue finding motivation to go to work and do your job and feeling the impacts every day. And as you mentioned, affecting family, affecting health, affecting job, all of these aspects. And that kind of makes me think of the issue of moral injury as well. I think it can be kind of like a subsection of moral injury. Moral injury is not a diagnosable condition in the DSM-5, doesn't mean that it is not incredibly running rampant within the fire service and first responder communities, and certainly can be very distressing. And unfortunately, in the most severe of circumstances, can also cause increased risk of suicide and really challenging situations. And so certainly administrative betrayal, moral injury, burnout, compassion fatigue, none of these are diagnosable conditions such as PTSD or depression, but that does not take away from the incredible impact that they have on individuals and their families as well. And certainly something that our team is very accustomed to supporting individuals through.
I really appreciate you talking about that because it's so common. It was the number one stressors. One of the stressor number one by, and I can't remember the exact number. I think it was 80% in the survey I did with, I know it's a small sample, but it was like 57 or so people.
I mean, that's an alarming percentage.
But I think that that's where you need to be able to go somewhere and talk about it. Because that's great to go talk to your peer support. But again, what I hear all the time is, when this happened, it really they don't say moral injury, but we'll say moral injury just for an example here. And then they're like, well, I'm friends with the lieutenant and the lieutenant's always right. Or I'll tell him you said that or whatever. There's, firefighters, their words, not mine. They're a chatty bunch who like to bitch and moan to each other. Those are not my words. Those are their words. And I agree with them for the record. But sometimes you feel uncomfortable saying that. And when it's been hurtful and it affected you as a worker or whatever, where do you go with that? Well, now we have some other options we can offer them.
Absolutely.
And I think
really, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No worries. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it really, I hope that this can be validating for individuals that might be struggling and knowing that you don't have to be able to pinpoint exactly what you're struggling with. If you're struggling at all, whether it is one thing that you can, think of, or it's a combination, or in general, you have just felt a decline or felt a decline in motivation, a decline in your health, a decline in just the happiness within your home, whatever it may be, you don't have to know exactly what's going on, but there are people out here that will help you navigate and help you get to the other side and help you to give you tools to be able to feel more present within yourself. I always say I love to feel that my feet and my mind are grounded in the same place, because when I'm struggling, I'm physically present, but my mind is elsewhere. I'm just feeling very blurry, very hazy. My mind is just, it's not even that I'm overthinking. My brain is so overwhelmed, I can't even generate thoughts. And that really impacts my ability to be mindful and be present in my relationships and in my home and just within myself. And that's just such a crappy feeling and something that I think a lot of people are experiencing, and perhaps experiencing for long extended periods of time, and then only kind of starting to increase in severity. And there is so much freedom that comes to reaching out and asking for help, and just seeing the, impacts and kind of the shift in how that changes your entire life.
The other thing I want to mention, because that's the other part too, is noticing all those things. I'm going to speak from my experience, but I'm pretty sure you're going to concur. So I don't have a magic wand to fix people in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It's not downstairs. It's not upstairs. It's not even my house. I don't know where it is. I do not have that magic wand. And I'm assuming that the Center of Excellence, while very good, in 35 days, it's not like, oh my God, I'm a new person. I'm all
Yes,
set.
totally.
One of the things about the IAFF Center of Excellence is I think that the message one of my firefighters really liked was, this is really good, but you still need to continue working on yourself. So one
Hmm.
of the things I want to mention, a little bit too, is don't be in a rush. Because again, if you've had a problem for 20 years, it's not going to be
Hmm.
fixing itself in 35 days. That's just
Totally.
not how it works.
Absolutely. I always say, you may be a changed person, but you're coming back to an unchanged environment. And so you
Correct.
are coming back exactly to the environment that you had left. And it can be very challenging to lean on those lessons learned, those coping skills developed, the processing that was done, and all of the healing that you encountered while in treatment. But it is just the kind of tip of the iceberg. It is just the beginning of your healing journey. But it does require ongoing care, ongoing support, ongoing outpatient therapy. Sometimes it's ongoing medication, whatever that is for each individual. And so I think it's really important to know that it is really the start of your healing journey. Our team works really hard to set people up with vetted, culturally competent providers so that when they do return home, they can continue to engage in the learning and the healing and the processing that they did on campus. But it is not a quick fix, it is not a magic wand. And I think it can be daunting to imagine it that way, like, oh, I really want to go and just come back and be fixed forever. But again, humans are multidimensional people. Mental health is not a black and white type of kind of checkbox that we went through treatment and we're good to go. It's an ongoing journey, but the benefit of that is learning the tools to master those tools, to put it into practice, and to just continue the work and continue to feel better. And knowing that, if you start to kind of fall back again, these resources are still here to help you get back on track too.
I'm going to share a little bit when I have first responders or anyone, but first responders, my specialty. They go, how long do I have to be in therapy? So, well, let me put it this way. I started off with weekly therapy after my third death in 10 days in my job.
Mm.
And I needed therapy way before that. That just triggered a lot of shit. And I had to go to therapy every week. And then eventually I went to every other week.
Mm-hmm.
And now I go anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks, depending on how good or how bad I'm doing. And frankly, recently I went every 2 weeks for a short while because I had something I had to work out on.
Totally.
This journey started in 2004. We're recording this in 2025. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't see myself ever being completely done. And maybe I'll go to 6 to 8 weeks, and that's great. And I've got guys who come in every 3 months after seeing me sometimes twice a week for a while. At the end of the day, I want to share that personal story, not to make it about me per se, but to explain that the magic wand doesn't exist. Because I'll tell you what, if I was a magic wand, I'd be using it on myself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to be selfish, but that's how it would be. So I think that that's the story I share because I think that one of the other things too, we're going to finish a bit of cultural competency a little bit here, and then I want to go a little more about the center, the cost, the insurance, and all that stuff. When we talk about a cultural competency, you need to share about yourself as a therapist with first responders because you're not authentic if you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people know that about me, obviously listening to a podcast, but one of the other part of therapy, oh, I can't tell them this. I'm like, you're not going to connect ever with a first responder if you can't say this or can't say that. You don't want to
Yeah.
invite them to your barbecue. I get that, and they get that.
Yeah.
But that if you don't share a little bit about yourself, you don't seem authentic, and that's very important about cultural competency, in my opinion.
Agree completely because as you said, there's a part of cultural competency that is about the discipline and the learning about aspects of the job and learning the culture, but there is an entirely other side of that, as you mentioned, with building that rapport, being a trustworthy person, being somebody that they want to be around, being somebody that they trust, that they know has their best intention. And a lot of times that comes from finding ways to connect in how you got to where you are and why you're so caring about your position and all of these aspects as well. And I want to thank you for sharing those experiences with me and on this podcast. And I'll echo what you mentioned too, just personally. The reason why I became a social worker was from childhood and going through therapy and figuring out those strategies to be able to work through a lot of my challenges as well. And depending on the severity, depending on the season of life, sometimes it was more frequently, sometimes there was more space in between. And it's never something that's going to be a forever closed chapter. There are times such as new motherhood or such as new jobs or new seasons in life that is normal to feel, maybe I need a little tune up, a little check in, and let me kind of loop back in my provider, or perhaps find a different provider depending on what the specific circumstance is. And so I appreciate you sharing that. And I'll certainly echo that for myself as well. And for any clinicians that are on, listening to this too, just finding ways to connect and really connect from really that person perspective. It's very important to be a professional and maintain professional boundaries, of course. But as you said, first responders really want to feel that they can connect and that this is someone that is, a friendly, familiar face that they can really just settle in and get comfortable with for the long haul.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, number one. I think that me and you have to start a group soon. Just for us therapists to talk about this stuff together.
Yes.
But as we getting close to the hour already.
Oh, man.
Probably end up being two full episodes here.
We always do this, Steve. We always go after our time.
Do you again? I know we're on the podcast here, but I'm going to share. Have we ever either finished on time or anything else like that?
I was going to say never. It has always been extended, but mutually glad it has been extended. I can't speak for you, but I feel like we've always been on the same page that we're it's fine. Let's just keep it rolling.
I'll share with the audience. I know you're right here, but I'm going to pretend you're not here. The other reason why I like Hannah is she's like me. She could never lie to me, and I can't lie to her because my face tells the story, or my voice, or yeah, or whatever. I can't hide how I feel. And it's clear that we actually enjoy talking to each other. We always go over. So I want to share that with everyone because that's truly how I perceive you. I'm pretty sure if I ever pissed you off, we touched on this right beforehand on a different subject. I'm just going to keep private for me and you. And you're like, oh, no, don't worry. I'll tell you.
Don't worry.
So, and I should have never doubted her, honestly. But to finish off a little bit, tell us about how we can get into the Center of Excellence, insurance, admissions. Do I just show up at Hannah's place, or what do I do here?
Come on down to Florida. I'm just kidding. Yes. So the IAFF Center of Excellence, we do have a parent company that is called Advanced Recovery Systems. Advanced Recovery Systems owns and operates the kind of behavioral health treatment facility of the IAFF Center of Excellence. It is a partnership between Advanced Recovery Systems and the IAFF. Now, with that being said, Advanced Recovery Systems does have a dozen inpatient treatment facilities for civilians all over the country. Now, I bring this up to mention that we do have a 24/7 admissions team call center that is operated by Advanced Recovery Systems, but we have specific intake team members on the admissions team that works with our IAFF members. And so there's sometimes this confusion when they see a call back and maybe somebody identifies as Advanced Recovery Systems. That is just because that is one call center operated by Advanced Recovery Systems, but there would never be a situation where an IAFF member is filtered elsewhere or, recommended to go somewhere. They will go to the IAFF Center of Excellence if that is with their preference. And that is the IAFF's expectation as well. But I say that to share, we do have a 24/7 admissions team. And so no matter what time of day, no matter what day of the week, no matter if it's a holiday, weekend, 2 a.m, if somebody wants to initiate this conversation, you can try to reach me, but if it's the middle of the night, I'm a pretty heavy sleeper, so I'll call you back in the morning. But I don't want you waiting on me. And so in the meantime, until you can reach me, the admissions team is always there. They are able to get the insurance information and then be able to provide each individual what their exact deductible, co-insurance rate, and out-of-pocket max for the year looks like. The cost of treatment is completely dependent on what your insurance carrier and what your specific plan is. Now, I will say we are in network with most major insurances between the Blue Cross Blue Shield, the Aetnas, the Cignas, the United Healthcares. We have a ton of direct contracts with municipalities to eliminate any barriers to accessing care. To know what your specific breakdown is, let's connect offline. We like to be able to have this be available for departments and local leadership to share with their members so that individuals can see, oh, this is how much it would cost to go to treatment. And a lot of times it's a lot less than I think a lot of individuals may think because we are in network with most major insurances. So let's say somebody calls into the admissions team, the insurance information is collected and delivered back to the individual so they know before coming to treatment what that out-of-pocket would look like. They would then do a pre-assessment over the phone with the admissions team, which looks at medical, psychological history, gets a little bit more information as to what they are struggling with. All of that gets kind of put together into a clinical summary that gets sent over to our medical director at the Center of Excellence, who is a psychiatrist. She will then review that and make sure that before they come to us that we have determined they are a good fit for treatment, because we would never want somebody to fly across the country and arrive in Maryland and for whatever reason it not be a good fit. So we do that on the front end. Once that clinical approval is given, our admissions team will help coordinate the logistics of travel, whether it be car, plane, train, whatever means they want to get to us. We will schedule that so that when they do either arrive at the airport for the pickup or arrive at the facility, they can immediately jump right into treatment with no waiting period, no line, no bed availability issues. We want to get them transitioned right into treatment right when they get there. Now, ways that I can help to facilitate this process, make it go faster, make it more personal for you. I'm happy to work in partnership with the member themselves, with their peer, with their local leadership, their spouse, their clinician. Steve, you and I have worked together for these purposes. However, I can help make this as comfortable and quick as possible. That's something that I do. Our admissions team does incredible work, and I would never, replicate what they're doing. But in effort to keep it familiar and keep it easy, you can always call me. I'm happy to answer any preliminary questions a member may have, help them feel comfortable in progressing to the next step. If they want to stay on the line, I can call into our admissions team and then introduce them from there and then kind of be that supportive individual along that process. If there's a peer involved or a clinician involved, I'll keep them updated as to the timeline of what we're looking at and then up to when they land at the airport to make sure that everyone knows that everyone is safe and progressing towards their care. And so I'm available however I can be, whether it be questions or to initiate the admissions process, to connect to an outpatient therapist in your area, to host a behavioral health training or anything in between. Would love to be able to connect with any of you guys, whether you are a clinician or a fire service professional. However, I can be of support and kind of complement the work that your peer team is doing, be an extension of support, or kind of jump in if maybe behavioral health is a newer part of your local. Would love to share ideas and resources as well.
Well, this is all true, by the way. I can tell you, and I absolutely, we've been through this a couple of times, me and you at least, but I want to make sure that I like confirming stuff. This is absolutely true. So I want to make sure everyone heard me say that. And you've listened to 219 episodes or whatever my number is at, that I don't lie. And that's absolutely all true. So I hope people hear me say that. So now finally, how do we reach you or the Center of Excellence or anything else?
Thank you. So my direct cell phone number, I would love all of you all to save it and, save it for a rainy day if ever needed. My direct cell phone number is 727-506-9036, which is 727-506-9036. And then to reach our 24/7 admissions team at any time, you can call 855-441-3024. My email address is helmore, HELMORE @advancedrecoverysystems.com. Advanced with a D, I will say, recovery systems with an S.com. And then the website for the IAFF Center of Excellence is www.iaffrecoverycenter.com. I will shout out the website has a ton of resources that you can go in and print out for peer teams. A lot of them have booklets with these resources and kind of pull them as needed. Supportive resources for learning how to talk to kiddos about some of these issues, how to support crew members returning from treatment, and a lot of additional information on the IAFF Center of Excellence. And then our webinar library is also on the website. So although we have 2 live webinars a month that we would love you to join us on and be able to ask live questions and network with each other in the chat box, there's also a library of recorded webinars that have been going on for the last 5 years to kind of view on demand as well.
I can vouch for the website, so go ahead and it'll be all in the show notes. I'll put all the phone numbers too. The other part too, before we go, other than saying thank you, absolutely adore working with you. Can't wait to meet in Maryland. Apparently that's our next trip.
Yes, I can't wait.
We'll figure that one out offline. The other part too, I want everyone to hear. I call Hannah. Hannah set up everything for my client. And then she was offline because she has a life outside of work. Go figure. And she had 2 people call me to confirm picking them up and landing and being in the Center of Excellence for the IAFF. So this is all true. Again, I have my personal experience with that, and I vouch for them 100%. So I want to thank you for your time. This was, again, too long, and yet felt like
I'm not shocked.
And not only that, I mean, like, I literally feel like it was like 20 minutes.
Me too.
So.
No, it is always such a joy and a pleasure to talk to you, Steve. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity to join today and to share this resource and really just continue to just talk about behavioral health and the fire service and really shine a light to it. And thank you for all that you do each and every day. And I'm just so thankful for each and every interaction with you. So it was a joy and a pleasure to be here with you today. And for everyone out there listening, I look forward to the opportunity to work with you and serve your members if any questions or needs come up. And let's keep on shining a light and ending the stigma and really doing our proactive steps to working towards a better behavioral health wellness for all. So thank you, Steve.
I could not have said it better myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Hi, well, this completes episode 219. Hannah Elmore, I cannot thank you enough. And yes, I'm looking forward to go to Maryland just to see the IAFF Center of Excellence. All the show notes will show the connection with phone numbers and everything else you need. They'll be included on there. And I hope you join us for episode 220 with Bill Dwinell's a colleague of mine who we work on. He's a co-owner of a company we're working on. So I hope you join us then.
Please like, subscribe, and follow this podcast on your favorite platform. A glowing review is always helpful. And as a reminder, this podcast is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. If you're struggling with a mental health or substance abuse issue, please reach out to a professional counselor for consultation. If you are in a mental health crisis, call 988 for assistance. This number is available in the United States and Canada.